Obeying God when you know what the outcome is, that's easy. It's when God speaks to you to do something and it makes no sense, that's when it's the most challenging. But that's also when it's the most important. I had a mind blowing experience that taught me a lesson. Check this out. So, when I first started in ministry, I would go into this neighborhood. Other people would go with me Friday, Saturday nights. We would do outreaches. It was a neighborhood where there would always be a lot of people out on the streets. We'd put out our PA system. We would preach. We'd walk around. We'd engage the community. We'd minister to them. And we'd led a lot of people to Jesus, and they ended up going to church as a result of that. Well, this one particular Friday night, it's raining. So, of course, we're not going. Nobody's out there. But then God speaks to me, and he says, I want you to be faithful to go. I want you to obey me. Be consistent to this. I struggled with that for a minute. In my mind, I'm like, nobody's going to be out there. This is absolutely crazy. But I packed up all of our equipment, put it in my car, and I drove down there. And I get down there, there's no one out there. Occasionally a car would drive by. So I put out the speakers, it's drizzling rain. I get everything turned on. I'm standing there preaching my heart out. I preach an entire message as if people were everywhere standing, looking at me, locked in to what I'm saying. I even preach the whole message and get to the end and I give an invitation. I said, if you're under the sound of my voice and you want to give your life to Jesus, I want you, wherever you are, I want you to pray this prayer with me right now. And I prayed the prayer and I said, God bless you. Go tell somebody you got saved. Then I packed all of my equipment up, put it in the car, and drove home. And I was thinking the whole time, this must just be some kind of test for me to see if I will obey God even when it doesn't seem to be making a difference. Like it's a waste of time what I just did. So I got home and a few days passed by and forget about it. And then 6 months later, I run into a guy I know. He said, hey, I want to tell you about an experience we had about 6 months ago. He said, we were all on top of this mountain and it was raining. And so we were on the back porch of this house. We're there partying. He said, and then all of a sudden, we hear your voice come up the mountain right into this screened-in porch where all of our friends are partying. He said, we can hear every word you're saying crystal clear. He said, everyone quit partying and everyone just stood there listening. They're probably a mile and a half away from where I was. But somehow God took me standing there preaching. He took it and caused it to travel up that mountain and go straight into that screened-in porch with all of our friends that were partying. I had no idea that that was what was happening when I was doing this. I was struggling with emotions and feelings like, this is stupid. Cars that would drive by every now and then, they've got to be thinking, that's the crazy guy. Those are thoughts that are going through my head while I'm preaching my heart out. And then 6 months later, here this guy is telling me this story. He described how God really began to deal with certain people that were on that screened-in back porch that were up there partying until all of a sudden they heard me preaching and then even give the invitation to pray this prayer and give your life to Jesus. Some people think obedience starts when you do something. Well, you were obedient when you went out there. You were obedient. You were obedient when you were holding that microphone, preaching, and nobody was there. That's the result of obedience. Obedience starts when God speaks to you. It's the moment you acknowledge, yes, Lord, I hear what you're saying, and I will do what you're saying. That's where obedience starts. If God speaks to you and you shake it off and you push it down, to be carnally minded is death. But to be spiritually minded, it's life and peace. When you're spiritually minded, the natural mind may process things like this is crazy. But the spiritual mind says with God, all things are possible. And obeying Him, even when things seem impossible or crazy or fruitless or a waste of time, that's when it's most important. A spiritually minded person will process what God is saying, and he'll say yes, and he'll take action. I want to encourage you, when it seems crazy and God's telling you to do something, start obeying and watch what happens.